Welcome to SciTech Culture with Steve Kern and Ben Warner, where we examine science, technology and culture in the 21st century. Visit our website at scitechculture.com.
Hello and welcome to SciTech Culture. My name's Ben Warner. I'm joined in the flesh this time by my good friend and colleague Steve Kern for our final video of 2017. How are you today, Steve?
I'm very well, thanks, Ben. Once a year we get to get together, which is fantastic, and make a show. It's great.
And you'll have to bear with us. We've got some technical challenges here this morning. You may not be able to see it, but we're using an iPad and a Mac to record our audio because of we'll have to put in a complaint to Apple about the fact that we couldn't get our mic to work.
Wait until Steve Jobs hears about this.
But hopefully it'll all come out well in the wash. So, all right, so it's our wrap-up show, and I just wanted to start with the fact that it's also our 100th show of SciTech Culture as well.
Very good.
So,
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Well done.
Yes.
Well done.
Just wanted to reflect on the fact that you get to like a milestone like this and it doesn't feel like a new endeavor anymore. I remember when we got to 100 episodes of our previous show, and it kind of felt a bit different going forward because it's like it's got a bit of a backlog now, I guess, of topics that we've covered in history. But I guess the other thing, though, is that it goes without saying, I guess, that this is, I guess, the end of our 7th year of podcasting in general.
Wow.
So
that's a lot of podcasts.
So to reflect on that, and I think we made the right decision a couple of years ago to sort of shift to the focus that we've got now on science, technology and culture, because I think that that's where a lot of discussions can be had over a lot of different topics, I think, as we've discovered. Introducing, like shifting away from the film element to the culture element kind of broadened things out a little bit, I think.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, that as part of that, we've seen such a revolution in culture generally with regard to science and technology through the Internet of Things and the connectivity and the social media and all the wonderful things that we have at our disposal today, which even 3 or 4 years ago, I don't think were really in existence.
Just like us recording a podcast without a microphone right now.
That's right. Who would have thought that even 3 or 4 years ago?
All right, so just like I said, bear in mind you might hear the odd plane noise or car going past, but hopefully I'll be able to do some magic in Final Cut Pro afterwards.
That's right.
All right, so just wanted to sort of start in a specific place, and we're talking about we've moved away from film to culture, but have to bring up the latest Star Wars film, The Last Jedi, because now these sort of event films are becoming the cultural events. At least that's what Disney, I guess, would want us to want to believe. But I just wanted to reflect on the fact that I got the chance to see it just over the weekend, and I mean, it's a really odd thing. We were talking about it before we started, that I just find the film actually a really good film because I like Rian Johnson, the director who directed Looper, so I'd highly recommend people watch that film because it's actually a really good film. He brought that kind of sensibility and unpredictability to The Last Jedi, which in the end, the film has caused quite a divisive fan reaction, and I can see why, because from my perspective, I'm not like a sort of wedded to Star Wars, so I don't like get upset if they do something a bit off or isn't quite in keeping with what's going on. But The Last Jedi to me felt like it was a really good film on its own. Mm-hmm. But then when you attach the Star Wars brand name to it, I think it actually doesn't work as a Star Wars film. So, and there's quite a number of instances for that. You can probably, look up on Reddit, the fanboys going into meltdown over what they did with Luke's storyline, the fact that they're still doing a bit of copying and pasting from earlier films, and that some of the ideas and themes were actually very interesting, but they just undercut what Star Wars is about, I thought, which, who knows, maybe that's what it needed, 10 films in, whatever they're in, but, maybe that's just what it is. They have to change it to keep it relevant. I don't really know.
Well, firstly, I haven't seen a Star Wars film since Return of the Jedi in the cinema, and I was regretting that decision probably about 5 or 6 years ago, but now I'm starting to feel pretty good about it. The more they make, obviously, the less special each Star Wars film becomes. So it's a tricky one, but maybe I'll answer it from a Doctor Who style perspective. There's the classic series and the modern. The modern continues in the traditions of the classic, but isn't the classic.
Yeah.
And will never be. And I think Star Wars is probably at the same point. You know, it's very hard, I think, for people who've followed it the whole way, maybe to live with what's happening now. But I think you have to realise that Star Wars now is not the classic Star Wars, it's modern Star Wars. Whatever that means, for better or for worse.
So, to me, that kind of underlines the fact that you had the Lucas films, which were special, and I'd even include the prequels in that, because even though they're poorly sort of told in a way, they're still Lucas's films, so they kind of had, for all the issues with the prequels, they were trying to tell a different story at least.
That's right.
Whereas with these, they just feel like other films with the name Star Wars on it, and that's to be expected. Disney's a big corporation. They've turned it into corporate product, and that's what it is now. It's just another, you know, an ongoing thing that we're just going to get these every year.
So how many Star Wars films are there now?
I believe there are 9.
So there's 9 now. Is that including the Ewok one?
Well, I guess if it's... Well, I don't know if they're really counting that one as part of it.
They never called it Star Wars, but I'm not suggesting that's where Star Wars is headed. So 9, yeah. So that's a lot of films.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I just wanted to end off with the quote from Mark Hamill that he recently was quoted as saying that it doesn't matter whether it's any good, it just matters whether it makes a lot of money. And it doesn't seem like that's going to slow down anytime soon.
No, that's
and I guess just to cap it all off, for me, the Last Jedi kind of embodies what has changed about Hollywood and why I've lost interest in it in general, because now you don't... Like, The Last Jedi would have worked as its own self-contained film.
Yes.
But they would never make a film on that scale which didn't have a brand name attached to it. And I find that quite sad in a way, that you can't go into an experience now that hasn't been predefined already, which is something I think we grew up on.
Yeah, that's right. The only other thing that I'd add that's interesting about the Sign of the Times is the fact that they don't market Star Wars films anymore. And so someone who's outside the Star Wars circle, it's very refreshing not to hear about it every year. And until fans say, I'm going to see the film, and they pull out a title and you go, well, I wonder what that's about. Yeah. And then you find out it's a Star Wars film.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we'll broaden the discussion now. We had our little that's our clickbait part of the
very good.
part of this segment. So just broadly, just this year's been a fairly crazy year. I think it's a bit hard to define what exactly was going on this year in a lot of ways, but I just wanted to sort of bring it back to an article that I'd read in The Age recently, where they said, there's this feeling of things unraveling or things not going well, Trump, Brexit, all that stuff, and what's going on with the culture and all this sort of thing. But this is actually we're in a better place. This article that I read in The Age said, actually, we're in a better place than in any time in history in terms of quality of life, access to, that middle-class lifestyle, I guess. Especially compared to 20, 30, 50, 100 years ago. And yet we're in a place where people are, sort of anxious about how things are going. What do you think about that sort of stuff, Steve? I mean, it kind of, is it because there hasn't been a world event, like, say, a world war or something for people to really understand what something calamitous could be?
It could be that.
Yeah.
It could be the fact the internet's making us nervous and all the connectivity and that sort of thing. That's another theory that's going around. Then, of course, the other theory on top of that could be just that now things are so good, and that's exactly what happens right before something terrible happens. So who knows? It is very interesting. I certainly think in a Western or developed world scenario, I don't think anyone's ever had it better than this. Maybe we've hit peak good times, which isn't a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll probably cover a lot of this more next year. We did a lot of Trump episodes, for instance, this year, and other sort of cultural events. We actually focused a lot on technology because that's playing a big part, and I think a lot of that's going to carry over into next year, into 2018. So they're topics that we're going to be revisiting, I'm sure. But I think it's an interesting place where we're ending the year, I think, and it'll, I think even compared to a year or two ago when things may have appeared more rational and stable, I think, we could be in for some unpredictability going forward.
Well, I agree. I think something big will happen around cryptocurrency, most likely Bitcoin next year. I think you also see the rise of some big artificial intelligence issue that'll finally come to the forefront. And I think we're going to see a really trying time actually for Google and Facebook over the next 12 months. I think that hasn't been flagged yet, but I think that's about to come out as well.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Steve, we might wrap it up there since it's the end of the year. We've only got a couple of days to go, and we're on holiday, so we have to keep on enjoying our holiday here.
Down here by the beach with some rain falling.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so don't forget our website, scitechculture.com. You can get all of our links and content there. Subscribe to our channels, and hopefully you enjoy everything you see there. So happy 2017. Hope it was good for you, and we'll catch you all next year.